So, everybody, thank you for coming along for tonight's Meet the Expert. Well, a slightly extended Meet the Expert tonight because it's more of a workshop. So, this is very much a sort of first trial here um, of a workshop style event. And we've got Brian and Barry joining us from Jolly Media, who are going to talk us through all kind of marketing, advertising, um, predominantly around social media. It's always a hot topic, and in the second half of the event as well, looking at more the kind of paid side of things as well, because what we're finding a lot with clients is paid social media marketing. So Facebook, LinkedIn, PPC, Google it stuff. It's really a fantastic tax reduction strategy because all it does is cost you money if you don't do it right. And it can be a bit of a minefield. So we've got that to cover as well. So without further ado, I'll shut my face and I will hand over to Barry and Brian to talk us through tonight's event. Over to you guys.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that intro, Stuart. So, hi, good evening, everybody. I'm Brian, first and foremost. This is Barry. I do respond to Barry and he does respond to Brian. It's par for the course. Our clients get us mixed up every single day in life. So, I'll answer to Barry, he'll answer to Brian. So, don't worry too much about remembering that. We're the co owners here at Jolly Media Marketing. We are digital marketing experts. We primarily help local trades-based businesses with lead generation, and we do that through a couple of vehicles, one around advice on all things social media and how to navigate that landscape and put your best foot forward, drive as much organic business in as we possibly can. And we also manage paid ads on behalf of a multitude of clients all across the UK. And we'll get right into the weeds of that later on in the presentation. So just to give you a flavour for who we are and exactly what we do, just building on that. So as I said, we're local business marketing experts. We're heavily involved in the electrical and solar trade in particular. But we have a whole raft of local businesses across our portfolio, some of whom you can see on screen today. Our clients in totality produce anywhere from 45 to 50 million pounds in revenue per annum. And we have been operating as digital marketing experts in the lead generation space for over 5 years now. And for anyone who's sat thinking Jolly Media Marketing, I quite like that. It's positioned well. There is no kudos at all that goes to Barry, who's the founder of the business. His surname is Jolly. So it didn't require much thought. Don't let him kid you in any way that it was strategic. It was literally his surname depicted by exactly what it is that we do.
Yeah, very creative branding for me, you could say.
So I'm going to pass over to Barry, and Barry will cover off exactly what it is that we're going to cover in today's session in terms of an agenda, and then we'll just really get tore into it. So as Barry mentioned already, please do make sure that if you've got any questions that you use this opportunity to ask them. You know, I know it's cliche as hell, but no question's a daft question. You only know what you know. You know your thing. We know our thing. So if we can help in any way, we will absolutely do that. That's the whole point of the session. So ask away, whether that be interrupting us or firing it in the chat box. And if in the unlikely event, if we're unable to answer any, we'll take them away and absolutely get back to you. But we should be able to, between us, answer any and all questions that you've got. So over to you, Barry, to cover off the agenda.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. So what we're actually going to try and do, we're going to try and make this quite an interactive workshop. But before we get into anything that's, a group activity and thinking outside the box, we just want to run through a wee bullet point of the fundamentals around digital marketing and having an online presence. So we'll take you through, social media, website, all the different bits and bobs we would recommend that you have in place to grow your business through marketing. We'll take you through that first of all. Now, before we jump into paid ads, which is always the first thing that everybody wants to do, I want to get more business. I want to advertise, I want to get more customers. We're actually going to take a breather before that and talk about, well, if you want to do paid ads, who do you actually want to attract? Who is your ideal customer? Now, everybody on this call will likely answer that differently. You know, every business does have a different, we call it an ICP, ideal customer profile. So we're going to spend a good bit of time going through that. I've got a Google document that I'll share with everyone. Really encourage you filling that in. But we'll be looking for a volunteer at that point as well. So hopefully one of you put your hand up and we can use your business to create your ideal customer profile. And we'll spend a bit of time and get everyone's opinion on that as well. Once you understand who's your ideal customer, you then want to think about how you're going to attract them to your business, which is when we start talking about paid ads across all different channels available. So we'll give you a download of our experience in that space. I ran my first paid advertisement 5 years ago on a laptop on my couch with very little experience. So I've seen it all through that time. So we'll give you a bit of a, you know, pros and cons and hints and tips on each platform at that point as well. Does that make sense, everyone? Anyone got any initial questions before we launch into the fundamentals?
Yeah. Good, right? We'll crack on.
Good stuff. So we would categorize this as your digital fundamentals that we would recommend having in place
with some kind of job
before you actually go down and look at paid ads.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I think someone's got a
You
mic off
can't
there.
work.
Just unmute yourself again, Barry. I've muted everybody there. When I do that, it mutes you guys as well. So just unmute yourself.
Yeah.
That's us. Cool.
All good.
Are we back, everyone? Are we back? Yeah, right, cool. So we would start off by looking at these fundamentals for any business before they even think about paid advertising. Now, some of you may be looking at this list and thinking, wow, that's so obvious. Of course you need to have that, right? Now, over our time in business and marketing, you would be amazed at just how many businesses actually don't have any of these in place. A lot of them don't understand the power of them. And even when they put them in place, they maybe don't set themselves up for success on them from the off. So we're not going to go too forensic in it, but we're just going to touch on each of these, tell you the key fundamentals you want to have for your business, get your opinions on it as well, if there's anything working well for you on it at the moment, and just open it up to the floor. So I'll kick us off by actually talking about your website. Okay, so the reason a website is absolutely fundamental before you do any paid advertising or you properly grow your business is there is an acceptance that any customer who's considering doing business with you, that can be a consumer, can be a business, can be from any walks of life, there's an extremely high possibility they're going to check out your website. You know, I don't have any, you know, verified figures, but it's going to be a very high possibility. Okay. Now, a website, as far as getting it set up, we do web design and web development. The easiest way to think about a website is it's got a few different uses, but the primary use of it is to answer the common questions that your customer asks about you. Okay. So if you look at your website and you read your website content, think to yourself, does this ask the questions my customer asks of me? So common questions: who are you? What do you do? Are you credible? Are you qualified? Have you done any past jobs in the past? What benefits does your service, product, staff, expertise bring to me? And it goes on and on and on. So the best way to think about writing website content or designing a website is think about answering the questions your customer asks of you. Okay, so that's kind of fundamental number one from a website perspective. Does that make sense, everyone?
Is anybody currently operating without a website out of interest? It's fairly common, I find, in the trades in particular, Often people will get themselves going, they'll get a wee Facebook page set up, that gets business coming in the door. And then before you know it, you're too busy to actually stop and go, right, I probably need to get myself a website sorted. But out of interest, is there anyone on the call that's currently operating without a website? Yeah, I see a few people
Couple.
nodding.
A couple coming up. And how much is it for a good website is an excellent question. I can see that coming in, Ashley, Andy. So when it comes to getting your first website, right? My advice there is you've got a few options. You can do it yourself, right? Nowadays there's some really good website builders which you could technically use a template, throw some content in it, off you go. So as far as a cost for that, it's going to be your time is the key cost. You can do that, they might charge you £50 a month to host it, and you're off and running, so that's one option if money is not in abundance. Nowadays you can get a standard 5-page website built from anywhere between £500 to £2,000, depending on the experience of the developer you choose, what functionality you want in your website. For starting out, fundamentally, all you need to do is answer your common questions your customer asks, explain what your business does, and very, very important is have a facility for a customer to contact you, right? So you'd be astonished how many websites at the start are created without a contact form, a phone number, an email address, an address being visible. And just to add into that, a very important thing about a website is it has to work. So there's only one thing that's worse than not having a website. It's having a website that doesn't work, because your customer will find you and then instantly disregard you because nothing's working.
And conducting audits on prospects every single day, I encounter that where you go into a website and there is a website, but as you start navigating and clicking around, so even simple things like most websites now will have, the little social symbols that will have the Facebook symbol, the Instagram symbol, the LinkedIn symbol. You click on the Facebook symbol and 9 times out of 10, it doesn't work. It just takes you back to the homepage of the website. And it's like, why have it there if you're not going to go to the hassle in maintaining it and making sure that that works? And that might sound like nothing, but if in particular, if you're selling a high consideration product, a high ticket trades-based product, an installation of some sort, those wee marginal differences, if there's 2 or 3 of them in your website, that can erode trust pretty quickly with consumers. So definitely important that A, you have one there, and that B, you don't just forget about it, forever and a day. You're constantly revisiting it. You have a wee calendar reminder to just go in once a month, have a wee play about, make sure that all of the Q&A stuff that you've got in there is still accurate and reflective of how you're currently operating. I would typically always take it a step further as well and really challenge yourself to, Barry hit the nail on the head by saying, answer customer questions. We take that a step further than most. So as a digital marketing agency, you may know this already because you may have worked with them. Trying to get a price out of them is impossible at times. It's all come on to a call with, let us sell you the dream. Our pricing is on our website. And what that does is it means that anytime we get an inquiry through the website, the conversion is exceptionally high because a customer has done their the word that I can never say, due diligence.
Yeah.
They've had a look around the website, our pricing's there. So if they see that and they're still willing to submit an inquiry, that's no longer a barrier for us. We can just have an informed discussion around what they need, can we deliver it for them, and how do we get business going?
Yeah. And again, what's your price is probably the number one question any customer will ask you. Now, we're very conscious that we've done plenty of marketing in the trades industry. We know that probably a lot of you are sitting here going, well, every price is different, every project's different, every customer's different, every house is different, right? We get that. Indicative pricing doesn't need to cover all eventualities. It's a price benchmark to give your customer an idea of what to expect from you. So hopefully that gives you a couple of fundamentals. I'll just recap them. It's, answer common questions, allow for a customer to contact you, be credible. So you guys will be highly qualified in the trades industry, have everything on there, all your accreditations, all your jobs. Make sure it loads is definitely one of them. Make sure it works. If you do decide to, I do see a question up there actually. I think it's from Astrid. So I'll just finish this point and then I'll hand over to you, Astrid, right? If you do decide, I'm looking at Andy and Ashley here to get someone to build your website, always double check it on a mobile device, okay? Because way over 70% of all your traffic in your website will be from a mobile device. So somebody designs you this beautiful website and you're sitting in your laptop and it's amazing, check your mobile device because that's arguably more important, okay? Astrid, I think we've got a question over here.
Yeah, thank you. Just a quick one. And I'd be interested, like, to learn a bit more about how you would handle pricing issues on a website for a trade business, because obviously, like, I haven't seen anyone put their prices on there at all. And as you say, each job is different. It's really, often I start by making a drawing, and then pricing it off there. I'm a carpentry business, so yeah, it'd be just interesting to see how you would handle that. If you could maybe talk about that a bit later or something like that, that'd be great.
I'm quite happy to dig into it just now because it is a genuinely difficult question for most tradespeople. I mean, carpentry is, I could imagine the variety in what you're doing there has been massive. Now, on a website, you're not going to be able to list every single type of carpentry individual item that you're going to be able to do because there's so many different things there. When we talk about your ideal customer profile and we think about the jobs you want to attract, you may have 2 or 3 common job types that you do from carpentry with one prices from based on your individual requirements. Contact us now for your free quote, custom design, final price subject to survey. Having these little taglines in there will cover you in regards to not putting you in a corner when it comes to pricing, but it will also give customers will ultimately, when they see a price and it's within their project price, they will become a lead instantly if you're credible and you've got a website. So as a business, we went through the same journey, Astrid. About 2 years ago, we were sitting doing the exact same thing. I'm really uncomfortable with putting pricing on the website. We done it and we've seen our conversions increase due to it. So,
I mean, ultimately, you'll get less through, right? So when you have indicative pricing on there, your lead volume will probably drop. But you then know that leads that are arriving with you are hot to trot, as I would call them. And the art of it, I guess, is finding that balance between what we don't want is to have a nice enticing price there, and then the majority of occasions you can't fulfill that price because in time that just erodes trust with the people that you're serving. So you want to find that sweet spot, as Barry said, if there's a whole raft of services or products that you can offer, there's probably 2 or 3 that are responsible for 80% of your revenue at any given time. Figure out what those are and then find a way to try and have some indicative pricing or starting from pricing around that. It will be impossible for some of you, that there's no getting away from it. For some, it is just too difficult. But as I said, challenge yourself to really put that out there because let's be honest, it's typically the number one thing that a lot of customers are after. They just want to know what's the ballpark here. I don't want to waste your time or mine. So have it on there. It then means that you will naturally diminish the lead volume that arrives with you, but those that do arrive, you know that's not really a barrier because they've seen it and submitted an inquiry anyway.
Yeah, and that example, Astrid, I said 2 years ago when we made the call and decided to put it on, Stuart's put a comment in the chat. The reason we made that call was because we went to a event and listened to a speaker called Marcus Sheridan. So funny you write that in there. It was actually his event and his keynote speech which made the penny drop for me. So if you are still on the fence, couldn't recommend that enough. Check out Marcus Sheridan.
Yeah, I've got his book. I haven't read it yet, but it's on the list.
It's really good, Astrid. I think he had just one last point in this. He had a pool company, so he installed fiberglass pools. So again, it was every project's different, every house is different, every cost is different. So I'll not ruin it for you anymore, but there are some parallels.
And there are other kind of search engine optimization benefits around having pricing on websites, on blogs. Not many people in the trades do it. So when you think of your ideal customer sat down at their computer and they might be Googling, for example, I'll pick one off the top of my head, but how much does a media wall installation cost in Carlook? If you're one of the few tradespeople that have indicative pricing on your website and in blog articles, there's a higher propensity of you as a trades-based business then being surfaced to that consumer. Because most people will shut it. They won't have it on there. They won't be brave enough to have it on there. So, but we'll cover that later on in the session when we talk about SEO.
Okay, great. Yeah, no, that's really interesting. Thanks for that. And I think just as you were talking, I thought about, well, actually, what I want my prospective clients to know is that I will charge for drawing, and I could put that on there, and then
Yeah.
like have some additional information on there. So thank you. That's great.
Perfect. Well, look, best of luck if you go for it. I'm sure you'll see an improvement, and maybe feed it back to Stuart and he can let us know if you do. It'd be great to hear how it goes. So I'll move through the list. I'm not surprised we spent a bit of time on website because it is a big thing with a business. The second bullet point is a Google business profile. Has anyone on the call got a Google business profile? Does anyone know what it is? Couple of hands going up.
Yeah.
Cool. Now, the best way I would describe a Google business profile is it's like a mini website. Okay, so it's free. You can just type it in Google, create your profile in probably an hour. And what it does is it puts a location on the map of your business. It tells you about your services, and it is just a place to put content.
Will we bring one up? We'll bring those up, actually.
Let me bring one up. So come out here a wee second. Just so that you can actually visually see it, right? So let's go here. Can everyone still see my screen at this moment? Yeah, is it still visible? See my untidy desktop with all those documents there. Sorry about that. So we're in Uddingston at the moment. I'm just going to put digital marketing Uddingston. So the real benefits of a Google business profile is when you do a search on Google, down here is the organic SEO. We'll talk about this a bit later, but this is the people that Google have pushed as #1 place on your search engine. Now, a very important thing, I've just scrolled by Jolly Media Marketing's Google business profile, which actually sits above the organic SEO rankings, okay? So when you have a business profile, you can be at the top of the rankings in your area if you optimize it. So carpentry in the area you're in, Astrid, if you've got your business profile and you're adding content to it, that will push you up and give you a pin on the map. Now, these profiles are fairly condensed. There's not a massive amount that you need to do. It's all about getting images, videos, updating your services. You can see here, there's a barrel load in here. The other benefit of a Google local service profile, or Google business profile it's called, is you can collect customer reviews as well. Now, the more reviews you get, the higher your rankings become in Google. So real big benefit there. And it's also just another place that you can keep customers informed and keep it busy. Don't leave a blank profile. It just won't do anything for you. Keep it up to date and just make sure customers know exactly what you do when they find it. So that's definitely a fundamental. You can actually have one of these without a website. So I'm looking at Andy and Ashley. I would obviously recommend having both, but if you don't have a Google Business profile, I would say get one of them first, and then tag your website in when you get round to developing it. Does that make sense, everyone?
I set one of these up a couple of weeks ago for my uncle, who has just a wee local private taxi business. I think it took me 20 minutes in totality to set it up for him, if that. And the next day he started receiving phone calls that he wasn't receiving before. So it's absolutely free. It takes no time really to set it up. Literally just Google, how do I set up a Google My Business profile? Start using it to collect your reviews ASAP. You can even send your wee review link back to customers that you've dealt with historically, and just ask them to invest a wee 5 minutes to go in and leave you a review. If you've not been doing that, it's a great way to collect, 10, 20, 30, 40 reviews pretty much overnight. So I, again, would highly encourage you to invest the time that it takes. And then, as Barry said, treat it like another wee social media platform. Google loves it when you keep it updated with images, videos, just, once a month, just fire some more images in there. It could be anything at all, jobs that you've did, you in the office, you in the house, doing a bit of work. The more active and engaged you are, Google does its thing and just pushes you up and up the ranks.
Yep, spot on. I can see a couple of folk in the call do have the profiles, which is great. There's a question here from Ashley. Is there a magic number for reviews? I'm assuming that means, is there a magic number that once you get it, you start moving up? I'd love to say yes, but there isn't.
We've not paid the electricity bill.
That's been cut off. So how it works is, how we would say it is get as many reviews as you can. Where the reason there's not a magic number is with your business profile, and it can come down to quite a few things, like the location you're in, the number of competitors in the same location. Is the content on your profile valuable? Is it answering those common questions? So Google's full structure is it pushes what it deems as the most valuable content, right? So if you've got loads of reviews and really good content in regards to answering all these questions, providing value to your customer, that's the combination you're looking for. That's what's going to push you higher. If you had very poor content and value there and you had 1,000 reviews, yeah, you would still move up, but you wouldn't be top of the pile. So it all has to be in harmony, if that makes sense. Hopefully that answers your question. I'm afraid there isn't a magic number. I wish there was. It would make our life easier. Our rankings are probably, the reason we sit at the top of this is because of the content on here, and we've probably got a few more reviews than most of our other competitors.
Another thing to bear in mind, if you've set one up, it's almost similar to the advice that we gave on your website. What a lot of folk do is they'll spend that 20 minutes setting it up. They get all their info set up, their telephone number, their address, and then it just gets forgotten about. So you move office, or your telephone number updates. You might remember to do it on your website or on your Facebook page. You ideally, across your digital estate, want everything to have continuity. So same telephone number on this profile, your website, your Facebook profile, address being the same, because again, all of that stuff matters. The Google algorithm is incredibly powerful, much more intelligent than anybody in this call. So don't give it any excuse to de-rank you. If you move office, you update number, you just want to always be spending 5 minutes to go in and updating that in your Google My Business profile as well.
Yep, spot on. Having it all consistent is massive when it comes to this as well. But that's a bit of a rundown of Google Business Profile. Really powerful tool, free to use. It's an absolute no-brainer for all businesses, really. So definitely recommend getting one if you don't have it already. If you do have it, have a look at it. Think, is this positioned the right way? Have I got the right information on it? And just make sure you keep it up to date. Any questions before we move to the next one? I've got a hand up. Yeah, Astrid.
Sorry, a really quick one on
That's
Google.
okay.
I set this up a while ago for the carpentry side of the business. So hoping to be found by potential carpentry clients, but my company also provides training. We teach courses, and I have kept that off the profile, but I just wonder whether, I just didn't want it to be too confusing, but I wonder what you thought, whether I should have both sides of the business visible there.
Yeah, it's a very good question. I think there'll be loads of businesses out there that have multiple channels on there. I think it would be more confusing to have two separate business profiles with the same business name and different services. That would be more detrimental than having it all in the one. So I think it's absolutely fine to have it in one. The key thing you want to check, Astrid, is just that all your services are very clearly categorized. So all of these services sit under a marketing agency. So in your business, you might have carpentry, and some of the other stuff you do might fall under a different category. So it's just about making sure everything's clearly labeled on there. So it's no problem having it combined. It's just making sure everything is on there that you do, and any content that you write, like your overview, your description, touches on all parts of the business.
Okay, thank you.
I've spotted
Barry,
a
a couple of our questions there
Yeah,
come
okay,
in just before we move. Just before we move on, Rebecca was asking, I do not currently have a business premises. All my work is done from home. She doesn't obviously want the home address displayed in the public. Is there any way around this?
Yes, yeah, there is. You can link your business to an area on Google Business Profile, I'm pretty sure, rather than an address. It's always
Good stuff.
It's always beneficial to have an address, but I understand your
So a
arguments about
second option there, Rebecca, actually, this is pretty low cost, is to get a virtual office locally. You know, for maybe 10, 15 quid a month, you could maybe get a virtual office. So as Barry says, you could put your regional address in it, but it gives you a bit more credibility if you've actually got a business address. So maybe a virtual office is an option there.
Yeah.
Rohit's also asking, what if all our reviews are on Trustpilot? I think that falls into the tough shit category, because they don't link, Rohit. So Barry, how would you answer that? What if all the reviews are
Yeah.
on Trustpilot?
Unfortunately, it won't fall into this category in regards to pushing your business profile up, because it's got no reviews to go off. When you'd use Trustpilot for reviews, it's brilliant for marketing and brilliant for your website in regards to, you can put a widget on your website, pulls everything in automatically. It doesn't positively impact you here though, I'm afraid.
But definitely not going to do you any harm having a whole bunch of really positive reviews on Trustpilot.
Yeah.
Good stuff.
And then just one final one, just going back to Rebecca. When I started my business, I worked from home. I put my home address in the business profile, but there's an option on the business profile to say does not accept appointments, just to make it clear that it's not an office. So that's kind of how I done it. No one ever bothered me, but you know, it's entirely up to you how you go about it.
Good stuff. Just conscious of time, guys. Crack on. This is good.
Right, let's go on to the next one. So local directories is the next one, right? I'll go back to present mode. Now, what I mean by local directories, everyone, is, you know, think about our parents or grandparents or however used to find a business, used to get the yellow pages out, right? Online nowadays, there is scores of different versions of the yellow pages, which have lists and lists of local businesses, what they do, the services they offer, and believe it or not, people still use them. I was surprised when I first started this business to realise just how much traffic goes through local directories. Yellow pages is the big one, everybody knows, you know, 118. Make sure you get your business registered on them, because it brings two real benefits. It gives another place for people to find you. Most of the directories are obviously free as well. But when you have a website which links to other directories, it improves what you call, it's an SEO metric. It pushes you higher up the search rankings by classing it as what we call a backlink. Google looks at websites, and if you are linked to other creditable websites like local directories, it sees your website as being more trustworthy and actually pushes you up the rankings a bit as well. So local directories is a really good way to get some traffic coming on your website and push you up the SEO rankings as well. It'll take you a lot of time to register one by one on every single directory. I'll just very quickly show you something if anybody wants to do it. This does cost money, but it saved me a barrel load of time. There is I don't know if anyone write in the chat if they've ever heard of this online tool called SEMrush, it's called. If anyone's heard of it, it's an SEO tool. You can sign up to SEMrush for 20 quid a month, put your business details in, and it will register you on every single local directory that's credible. So do it once, cover them all. I would recommend doing that if you do have £20 a month to spare and you can invest in that. You should get that back through the traffic alone. But yeah, local directories is a very nice, simple way to get some more traffic as well. Any questions on that, everyone? Is anybody...
Barry, was that SEMrush, SEMrush? Yeah.
Yeah, I can share a link to that for you.
Excellent.
We're not an
I think
affiliate.
that's a good one for. I think that's a good one for a lot of people to get on all the kind of directories, possibly even local directories as well. So good.
Yeah, I found it. You know, when you'd be amazed how many's out there. So to just do it once, get it across them all. Definitely recommend that. Is there anyone on the call on or registered on any local directories at the moment? Got their website on there?
I've lost everybody's face. Where are you all? I can get it back.
Oh. Here we go.
We're back.
We're back. Sorry, I couldn't see if anybody put their hand up there. We use Google Meet, so for all the digital marketing knowledge we have, we're struggling with Zoom. So yeah, Astrid isn't on there, right? Okay, cool. Yale, yes, Yale.
Actually, can I just butt in here? Actually, Ashley's come up with something quite interesting because you mentioned about websites, and GoDaddy and Ionis and all the rest of it. They're okay because you do it yourself. But Ashley, I've got to agree with you. I've not heard any good reports from Yale at all. A number of clients we know in the past that have got sites built through Yale, they hold the domain, so it basically means you can't move. I'm not a great fan of Yale. Others might have had a more pleasurable experience, but no, I would avoid them, to be brutally honest with you, or proceed with caution, at least. So that's just to add to that.
That's a very, very important point, Stuart. One of the things we preach to every business we work with is always have the ownership of your assets from a digital perspective. So if you've got a Facebook page, make sure you're the admin. Now, this sounds ridiculous even saying this, but we've seen it a million times, Make sure you're the admin. If you've got a website, make sure you have the hosting logins. You've got your domain. We've dealt with businesses over the years that have lost everything without ever understanding what had happened. So
we even had a very sad situation last year where, really innocently, the person who set the Facebook asset up was someone who worked in the office of the business. When you set up a business page, it's always linked to a personal account. There was no contingency, so she was the only admin. She very sadly passed away quite suddenly. And after the business got through that grieving process, we at the time were managing 5 figures in ad budget for that business every month. And we're in a position where we couldn't access that asset because everything was in her name. So you're then in Facebook hell. You can imagine trying to speak to them and saying, this person's passed away. Well, who are you? Well, we're an agency that manage ads on their behalf. No, we're not dealing with you. We need all this paperwork and you need to send us this. So as well as setting it up, always have a wee think about contingency. And if you don't have team members, typically a brother, a sister, a wife, a husband. Firing them on as an admin, as a bit of contingency just in case anything happens, is typically a pretty smart thing to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool.
That was a proper eye opener. So some really good questions, everyone. I know it feels like we've still got loads to go through, but we're happy that it's got people thinking. I seen someone registered with Localo. I think Andrew said that. Good shout. So what we'll do is we'll move through onto our social platforms. I'm going to pass you over to Brian. He's going to take the lead on these.
Rohit's come in with a quick question there. How do you contact Facebook? Good luck with that, to be honest with you. You've better chance contacting God. How do you
Yeah.
contact Facebook? I'm having a nightmare after being hacked.
Roy, I had a full head of hair before I started doing Facebook advertising, and the primary cause of that was actually trying to contact Facebook. I'll be honest, mate, it's a nightmare. Because we're a digital marketing agency, we can contact them through live chat support. We do have regular calls with them now, so it's a bit easier. I think I could do a training course to teach people just how to contact them. It's that difficult, but the best way, I can send you a link and a little bit of a video after this call, mate, to say this is where I would check where the contact is. The only avenue you've got is live chat, but ultimately you need to go maybe through 4 or 5 different screens to get to the live chat. So I don't mind taking that as an action and sharing it with you, Stuart, if you want to pass it on. Anyone else can use it as well.
No, absolutely. Another question's appeared there from Andrew. Is it Localo work similar to SEMrush? Is it better to use than SEMrush?
I've never used Localo, never done it. I've only ever worked with SEMrush. I found it really, really easy. So yeah,
have a look into Sybase then.
Yeah,
Okay.
have a look at both of them. There's that much software nowadays. I imagine they're very similar, but yeah, I would say SEMrush, but it's only because I've used it.
Cool.
Right. Good old social media. So I dare say, and some guys, we're all hopefully using social media for our businesses. I don't mind sharing that out with business, like many people in their late 30s, early 40s. I hate all things social media, right? And I dare say that there's loads of people on this call that go, I hate it, it's a necessary evil. It is what it is. From a business perspective, you need to be on social media. If you're not, you're categorically leaving money on the table every day, every week, every month. And there is no real question in that. And to help bring that to life, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up on the screen, if I can find it, by using Barry's mouse.
There you
go. Where am I going?
You had the graph you're looking for?
No, I'm looking for our tracker.
Ah, right, okay. Yeah.
Right, when you got.
So supposedly I have a crazy mouse which is back to front and all this stuff, but I don't see any issue with it.
It does. For any Mac users, it chooses the settings to be the wrong way around. So when I go from my side of the office to his, I cannot work his mouse. Right, so can everybody still see my screen? It's a horrible Excel spreadsheet. We've managed to get some red lines on the screen somehow. I don't quite know how, if it was Barry or if it was me, but we'll ignore them and pretend that they're not there, right? So this is the tracker that we use every month to track the inbound lead volume that exists within our own business. So not our clients, but for our own digital marketing agency. Pretty ugly, but works a treat, right? So before we had this in place, we used to run blind. We would go, it kind of feels quite busy this month, but we had nothing that really supported that. It was just all driven by gut feeling. And as you know, it's that old adage, what gets measured gets managed.
Absolutely.
The way that we break it down is we have I call them our inbound organic inquiries, LinkedIn, Facebook, website to a certain extent. We have some paid ads that we started again midway through last October. We stopped them because we were at a huge trade show last month and it really ate up a lot of our capacity. And then we have one in here for referrals. So if I just highlight all of that lead volume, you can see that last month we had 43 inbound inquiries. Now, for a small digital marketing agency that has reoccurring revenue, typically a sale to us is worth no less than £7,000 when we look at the lifetime value of our customers, or some a lot more than that, right? And if I start to look at the breakdown of those 43 leads, so from a paid ads perspective, we had 20 inbound inquiries. We had one referral, and that means that last month, the majority of leads that arrived with our business came through either our social channels or our website. Now, naturally, the beauty of using social media is it's completely free. It just takes a bit of time and a bit of investment. We're going to conduct an exercise on this call that teaches you how to identify who your ideal customer is. And once you identify that, using that information to then create a social media strategy, which sounds really convoluted and complicated, but trust me, it's really not. It's dead simple. To communicate with them in a language that strikes a chord with them, that strikes a bit of emotion in them, that drives them to take action and submit an inbound inquiry to your business. As creating content continually to post it out on social media a bit of a pain in the arse sometimes, excuse my Glaswegian. Aye, it is. Sometimes I can't be arsed. But when I look at the breakdown of this lead volume that arrives with our business, can I afford to lose 50% of the lead volume that arrives with the digital marketing agency every month? Can I hell? Who can? So I'll continue to invest that 5 minutes every day that it takes me now that I really understand our ICP to push content out and continually drive those inbound inquiries in. Likes, comments, shares, all vanity metrics, right? The only thing that matters when you're running and managing a social media page for your business is exactly what's on this sheet. Inbound inquiries that's why we do it. Let's no kid ourselves on. It feels good in the short term when you do a repost and everybody loves it and they share it, and the algorithm probably does then push it to a few more people as a result of that. But if you're doing all of that and you're not getting inbound inquiries, you're not doing it right. We need to tweak something. So coming back to the slide deck, there's a few key ones that typically people within the trades industries are on, and that's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and TikTok. There's a few others, there's Snapchat, there's Pinterest, and probably a couple of others that I'm too old to know about now. But typically across the trades, these are the four in particular that most folk are, when they are putting in effort to create and push out content, that's typically where they're at. Now, one of the most common questions that we're asked is, what is the best channel? Should I be doing Facebook? Should I be doing LinkedIn? Should I be doing Instagram? Should I be doing TikTok? And it's really difficult to answer that question, right? Because the primary driver for that is, where does your ICP spend time? So for us, it's LinkedIn. But we didn't know that until we figured out who our ideal customer was, pushed content out across all of those platforms, and then in time, because you're tracking those numbers like we are on that spreadsheet, you start to identify, right, we had 20 leads that came in through social last month, 17 of those 20 came from LinkedIn. Why am I wasting my time on the rest of it, right? So a lot of people will say, look, when you create one post, just push it out to all anyway. By all means do that. Sometimes impressions, eyeballs, reach is good, and it's good from a brand awareness perspective. But once you identify that channel of choice, like we have, and to reiterate for us, that's absolutely LinkedIn. We typically are doing 1 to 3 posts a day between our personal pages and our business pages on LinkedIn. And again, I'm not naive to the fact that sounds like a lot when you're busy. It's easy for desk jockeys like us that are sat at the computer for 8 hours a day. You're out and about, you're in wholesalers, you're in customers' houses, you're quoting, you're doing design work, you're sending invoices away, you're jack of all trades, right? But ultimately, you either want to make this work or you don't. It really is as straightforward as that. So, as James often says, you can have success or excuses, but you can't have both. If it's important enough to you, you will find time to do it, right? So, I've admitted at the start of this that I find it a pain in the arse sometimes. I can't be bothered. I just want to lie on the couch and watch Netflix. As a digital marketeer, it's sometimes difficult to create content because I'm not producing real sexy stuff. I'm not a carpenter, I'm not a joiner, I'm not in customers' houses creating things that, you know, after the fact look really impressive. So sometimes being creative is a bit of a struggle, but you find your rhythm with it. So my overarching advice is that you need to figure out who your ideal customer is, and we'll teach you how to do that in a moment. Once you figure out who they are and how you communicate with them, you start off, you know, almost like scattergun across all of the different channels that are on the screen. You track the inbound activity that arrives or inbound inquiries that arrive from each one of those social channels. In time, that will help you identify where your ICP is spending time, and then you double down on that channel. By all means, keep the content going in those other channels for that brand awareness piece, but really home in on your channel of choice. I'll pause for breath. Does that all make sense? Does that trigger any questions?
I've got one from Ashley, which I don't mind picking up, but we'll start off there and then open it to the floor, right? So, Astrid, if we think back to, should I have pricing on my website chat that we had about 20 minutes ago? Ashley's quite a good example around why it's an important question, because I think she's on what's the cost for this question number 2, which is totally normal, Ashley, right? Very good questions. So outsourcing your marketing can be a really, really good thing for a business. If all that time that Brian's saying it takes to do it, you're instantly relieved of that when you get a good marketing partner. What's the costing like? Wow, there's a question. So we'll tell you what our costing is at the end of the slide to give you an example. You can have a whole variety of different costings. The 2 considerations you have, Ashley, is how much do you want to spend on ads, right? If you're going to outsource complete marketing, so what's your ad budget? And what's a management fee an agency like us would charge you? I've just seen another update on you go. Sorry, Brian.
I was just going to say, just to make sure that there's clear in the variance, I guess, between what I'm talking about and like paid ads and paid traffic, right? So, and I don't know, Ashley, if you're asking if you can outsource your organic content, right? So, you know, what I'm talking about now is the posting content out daily, right, across each one of your channels. That again is something that you can outsource. It's not something that we do. You can outsource paid marketing activity to an agency like ours. Typically, if you're looking at, we would call it social media management. That's a service whereby all the stuff I'm talking about, posting content, creating content, managing inquiries, comments, engagement, you can outsource that activity. The range that I've seen is probably as low as £300 a month and as high as £1,000 a month. Again, it's just about doing that word that I can never say, due diligence, shop them around and trying to ascertain, you know, where should I be setting my eggs there. The advice that I would give is that if you're looking to outsource your socials in terms of your organic stuff or your non-paid ad stuff, there's still a lot of work in it for you, right? Because if you hire a social media expert, they can't create content out of nothing. You still need to create content for them. So you need to create, when you're out and about, videos, images. You might then share that with them and they'll come back and go, right, I've cut it in this way, I've edited it in this way, what do you think? So they'll make it a bit more sexy, you know. But you still need to put in the graft to actually capture the content. That's actually the most difficult part, I find, is capturing it. Pulling it all together, once you're used to it, takes 10 minutes. So my advice, no matter how busy you are, if I'm really honest, would be all you're really paying for is somebody to get it over the line anyway, so just do it yourself. Yes, when you reach that point of thinking, right, I'm doing some right sexy installations here and I really want to show that stuff off, look at videographers, editors that can come in and help you and buy you back some time. But from an organic perspective, it's sometimes really difficult to plan and schedule it out as well, because you might be in a customer's house and see a particular finish and go, that looks incredible, I'm going to capture that right now and get it out into the world ASAP. Whereas if you've got somebody that you're outsourcing the activity to, there's just a few more hoops for both of you to jump through before it's out into the ether.
Yeah, and just before I jump on, a question from Alex, which I'll pick up. We have tried both, by the way. So we outsourced our social media posting many moons ago to a really skilled graphic designer who done a brilliant job of creating like really nice marketing, educational graphics and just churning them out all day, every day. This will link into your question, Alex, in a minute once I get to it. And when you looked at our page, it looked really professional, really slick, but there was just no people there. It was so digital. It wasn't personable, and we didn't really get anything from it. So Alex has asked, would you recommend adding personal posts to a business page, giving a personal connection to customers, or keeping it all professional? I would say people definitely buy people. All right, so mix it up in regards to, we do posts where we're all round in a training, in a team meeting, and we do a video of us in the moment doing what we're doing. If you've got a big milestone as a person, I got engaged last week, 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, yeah.
Brian put a post out, and our clients were buzzing to see it, you know. Oh, they're actually real people doing real things. So definitely be personable, show people who you are, and tie it in with your business at the same time. But it doesn't always need to be really, really strict professional.
So I guess just cutting down to the numbers that I shared on the screen, the organic inbound inquiries that we received last month, for example, 99.9% of those inbound inquiries arrive through a personal page. They don't arrive through our business page. They arrive through Barry's DMs or my DMs. So typically the business page we try and use to show off what we're doing in the business, not even necessarily to attract clients, but to attract talent and make it look like a great place to work. But our personal pages, like I post my life away, essentially. I do a couple of posts a day, typically on LinkedIn at least. Sometimes it is literally just whatever's in my noggin. Naturally, this morning it was a wee bit of a post about Donald Trump and riding the wave of, you know, some of that news and try to grab some free eyeballs. But having tested both, and if you ask me to, you know, what one should I focus on? Is it my personal page or is it my business page? Creating a personal brand in time will always drive more traffic inwardly to the business. And that's something that's changed over the years. Years ago, people used to hide behind the cloak of their business. Nowadays, the founders and the directors and owners in particular, you really need to get comfortable with putting yourself out there because, as Barry said, it's that old adage, people buy people.
So hopefully that answers those questions, everyone. Sonny's had to leave. That's absolutely fine. Any other final questions before we move on?
I think it's up to date, guys. Crack on. So I think you got the message there. Sonny's had to go. Just what are we about 6:30? So crack on, guys.
Right, great.
Right. So conscious of time, but I felt like there was a lot of good questions there.
Absolutely.
We'll see how we get on because I'd like to spend a bit of time with that. We'll make sure, even give us a shout at 10 to Stuart, and we can touch on paid ads and sort of round it up at the end. But
perfect.
So what we're going to do now is myself and Brian are going to talk you through how to create your ideal customer profile. All right. So what do I actually mean by that? In its simplest terms is think about the customers you want to attract to your business. Think about the good customers you've had in the past, because understanding how they think, what they do, where they live, what makes them tick is ultimately only going to lead you to attract more of them. Okay, does that make sense, everyone? About getting that profile nailed down. Now, to help you with this, we'll share this document with you. I'm just going to open it here now.
As Barry's doing that, this will really teach you, you know, who that ideal customer profile is, so that all of the organic stuff that I've just spoken about when you're pushing it out, it really speaks to them. But when you think it, for those of you in particular that have ran paid ads before, if we think about the Facebook algorithm as an example, right? That's essentially what the Facebook algorithm does. And that's how paid ads works, is it figures out the ICP of the people who are buying from you already and converting, and it finds more people like that and it shows them the ad, because the propensity of them to be interested is higher because they match the demographics of the last person that bought for you and the last person that bought for you. So this is just a manual way of you doing that and figuring that out, so that when you're pushing content out, it speaks to that same ICP.
Yep, spot on. So the reason we've done the fundamentals first is obviously you kind of know what you need now, but as Brian said, doing this exercise is going to really make you think about what content you want to push out there. You know, how do you attract these people to your business? Because ultimately, you know, Brian's already said he's not sitting doing 2-3 posts a day just because for the love of it. You know, he's trying to get business and get customers in. So I'm looking for a volunteer, right? Now I might pick on somebody if I don't get one, so apologies in advance. But do we have anybody who wants to create their business's avatar with me? So sometimes it's called a ideal customer profile or a customer avatar. It's the same thing. Any volunteers? Perfect, Astrid, because I was going to pick on you anyway, so that's fine.
Okay. I just thought in case anyone else wants to jump in, but I'm happy to do it.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. So what we're going to do, Astrid, right, is I'm going to walk you through how to create your business profile or your business ideal customer profile, right? Now, just think about all the good customers you've had and their characteristics, their traits, and I'll talk you through each of these questions as we go. Now, if you do multiple services like you've already said you do, Astrid, you've got a couple of wings to your business. For any other trade business on here, I'm sure you do many different things. When you first do this, think about your key service that you want to promote more of, you want to do more business in. So Astrid, let's say it's carpentry for you. If you've got, you know, an electrician who does rewires and EVs and all these different things, pick one of them to start thinking about that customer who buys EVs or who buys this from you. Okay. So for this example, Astrid, if you're okay with it, we're going to pick your ideal carpentry customer, right?
Okay. Yeah, I think that's probably more relevant for other people here on the call, because actually what I need to increase my marketing reach for is the courses that we're running. But for the exercise, let's do the carpentry.
Oh, if you've got a primary goal of getting more courses, then let's start there.
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I'll let you decide. You tell me. What do you want to do?
it's probably more relevant if we stick with the carpentry for everyone else, I reckon.
Okay. No problem. Right, carpentry, right? So again, just think about this customer, try and visualize this customer. So is it a consumer or a business you tend to do carpentry for, Astrid?
A consumer, private.
Consumer. So there'll be questions in here that relate to businesses and questions that relate to consumers. If your ideal customer's a consumer, ignore the business ones, and vice versa, okay? So you might get to this and go, that doesn't make sense. Ignore it. They've got business and customer questions in here. So when you do your ideal customer for carpentry, Astrid, do they tend to be male or female?
It seems to be a fairly even mix.
Right. So initially, almost everybody or most people will think that. And to be honest, a lot of the times it is accurate as well. But what I would do is if you have that thought, really dig down into it and look at maybe your last 10 jobs and go, was it male or female? Now, if it is evenly split.
Okay, you're right. It's not. It's more women. Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, I just had a look at all the jobs on the board. Yeah, it's more women.
Is it how much more is it? 70, 30? What does it look like?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so out of 10, the last 10 inquiries, I've got two men, 8 women. Okay. Yeah.
Cool. So Fair enough. Don't worry, Astrid. Everybody says the same thing, to be honest. But have a think, everyone on the call, and when you think about this ideal customer profile, remember this is people that have done business with you, that have been really good fits for your business. So really think about it. So female, whereabouts do they tend to be located in a certain part of the country? Is it a village, a town, a city?
They all are very local. In about, I would say, yeah, most of them are in a 15-mile radius of where I'm based.
Perfect, cool. So if you've got a radius of where you do business in, start thinking about towns, villages, streets in that area, because when we come on to a later question around where do these people spend time, knowing these little towns and localities can help you identify where they might spend their time as well. So we'll go with 15 miles an hour, but just a little tip for you, actually think around a bit more granular than that, like whereabouts actually are they? This is always a funny question, right? Dress sense. Do you do any carpentry jobs for people in three-piece suits or anything like that, or are they all quite casual?
No three-piece suits, no. All pretty casual, my
Like
clients, yeah.
like homeowners.
They're
Yes. Sorry.
they're wearing medieval costumes.
Maybe no, we'll move on for that one. And what age demographic are they, Astrid? Are they young, middle-aged? Are they wide range, short range? What do you think?
The majority, I mean, how do you define middle age?
Oh, risky.
So
choose your words carefully here, Barry.
I'll give you I'm going to swerve that question, right? But I'll give you an example from our perspective. So we tend to do business we're business to business, so we tend to look for business owners, 35 in the absolute low end, all the way up to about 59. We don't really get too many people over the age of 60. So our range is that range. So we would
Yeah.
put in our ICP. Some of the people on the call might have a really small range. They tend to do a lot of business in a particular demographic. Others it might be quite wide. But what's your range in the carpentry jobs? What do you think?
I mean, for the if I look at the last 10 jobs or the ones that are on the board, I mean, the youngest is probably around 35 or so, but that's an exception. 40s, 50s. Yeah, 40s is also, yeah, probably mostly 50s to 70s, I would say.
Yeah. So again, when you're doing this, is think about that, the sweet spot. You know, where is the actual, where do the majority of the business come from? And if it's 50 to 70, that's your age range. You know, if you do one job every 20 for a 35-year-old, disregard that, because it's not the common theme. You know, look for the common theme really. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to conscious of time, I'm going to skim over a few of these, but hopefully you can see where I'm going with this. Job role, family, leisure activity. The reason this is all important is, you know, you can start to build up a character of who you want to attract. Now, if you've got someone who's 50 to 70 within 50 miles radius of you, they've got a family, that's going to dictate what messages you're going to put out to them. You know, you're not going to have a social media post full of daft emojis and slang terms that youngsters use, because that's just not going to cut it with these people. You know, it's going to be factual, straight to the point, you know, so forth, so on. So does that make sense, everyone, how it kind of ties in with the messaging that you would use?
And it also should tie in with the medium that you use, right? So if you're targeting people that are aged, let's say 55 and above, they might like investing a bit of time reading a newsletter, for example. A 19-year-old probably knows so much they want to watch a video. 55-year-old or more, maybe even a bit younger than that, maybe quite happy to read a blog or a newsletter. So if you're on LinkedIn, you know, there's an option there to start a wee newsletter. You can fire out some weekly content and grow a wee audience in time. So it's just about trying to then tie this exercise in with having a quick think about both A, what you're posting out in terms of the actual content, but B, the medium and the vehicle that you're using to push it out on. Is that likely to attract attention from that particular demographic of individual? And then the last thing on that point, I'm just going to show you if I can find it again using Barry's mouse.
Oh, hold on.
Oh, there it is. There it is. It's there.
There you go.
So for anyone that's sat there thinking, well, I like to target, people that are aged 50 plus, why would I spend my time on Facebook as an example? This is just some interesting demographical information. It is pretty Americanized, so there's a couple of social channels on there that you might not particularly recognize, but it gives you a bit of a breakdown of each of the primary social media platforms. And then it looks at the age range, the typical age range of users within that platform. So if we pick Facebook as an example, once upon a time, it was probably ridden with people aged kind of 19 to 34. Now, those that are aged 50 to 64 probably just make up the majority of users on that platform.
Yeah.
So again, it's about having a think about who's my ICP, having a look at data like this, then doing a bit of testing. So I'll just fire it across all 4 or all 5. I'll do that over the course of a month. I'll track the numbers on the way in, right? I'm going to pivot according to what I've experienced and then just continually iterating, but always having that ICP front and center of your mind. Where are they spending time? What medium do they like? And then creating and publishing content in line with that.
Yeah. Yeah, spot on. So using your example, Astrid, as Brian said, the longer that red bar is, the older the population is on the platform. So Facebook would be a good one for you. Pinterest, which is an interesting one that not many people think about. That's actually got a fairly old demographic on it. And then LinkedIn, if business to business. But there's plenty of options, but it's about finalizing your customer profile to actually direct you where you want to start off. Like Brian said, we done them all. We just done them all and just kept doing them until we found the winner. If you've not got the luxury of that, I would definitely recommend that, by the way, if you do. But if you don't, pick one where you think your ICP lives. I'm just looking at a question here. Could you share with us later on this? Yeah, everyone will get a copy of that worksheet, by the way. It'll force you to create your own copy of it. So just label it what your profile is called. And yeah, I would strongly recommend doing quite a few of them if you have a few services as well. I just want to very quickly look at a couple of other questions on this form just to kind of clean up what they mean and why they're important. And then we'll leave you to fill it in. But Astrid, thanks for volunteering. We didn't get far cause of time, but yeah, keep going through that. What I would say with this worksheet is this first thing, describe your avatar, is about the demographics of them. Who they are, how old they are they male or female, where do they live, what sort of stuff do they do? That demographics, okay? Probably one of the most important parts of this is step 2, okay? What is their biggest problem? What is their biggest desire? What keeps them awake at night? Quite an extreme way to put it, but what is their biggest stress? All right. How can you help them right now? But how can you help them in the future? Right. So this is all getting into the questions you need to answer in your content that we spoke about earlier. If you can do content, videos about you solving these problems, about you giving these solutions which appeal to your avatar, you're going to get more inquiries. Okay. Now, the last 2 here is a very, very important thing. Me and Brian hear this every single day when it comes to marketing, is I didn't convert that inquiry because they're a tire kicker. Anyone heard that phrase before? They're just window shopping, they're a tire kicker, there's no interest, I'm not going to bother with them, right? The harsh reality of humans is not everybody is ready to buy every time you speak to them, okay? So I would strongly recommend thinking around not just how you convert or sell your services to a lead the first time, but how can you put content out about keeping a lead nurtured so that when they are ready to buy, they're going to come to you. Okay. Now, an inquiry, until a customer outright tells you no, that is not dead. So your content can keep educating people around their problems, desires, and stress factors. If you keep educating people on that about the benefits that you bring to the table, you're going to get them to convert in 3, 6, 9 months' time. Okay. We work with marketing clients all the time, and we'll look at their sales figures, and there'll be a inquiry for February dropping in October. It does happen. Not everyone's a tire kicker. Some of them are. Not everyone.
And just to put a bow on that, right, the last piece of advice I would give is once you've figured out that ICP and you've completed step 2 in particular, a social post that tradespeople love to do is, here is a complete job, right? And that stuff, that is gold dust, right? But the mistake that's often made is that I get a sense that sometimes it's put out there to impress other tradespeople that ultimately don't care, right? When we think about what we spoke about earlier in the session, this is all about inbound inquiries. It's all that matters, right? So yes, if you can do this was the state of the house, this is what we then done, this is now the current state, and look how happy that customer is, amazing. But underpin that, we're really homing in on the problem that you solved for that customer through copy and copywriting, I guess, which again sounds overtly complicated, but it really isn't. It's about having a think about why did they do it? If they invested a lot of money in an installation or getting a problem solved, why did they do that? And really leveraging that in your post. And I did say that was the final piece of advice, but the final piece of advice is on something called a hook, which you've probably all heard. It's a bit of a buzzword just now. It feels like it's something that's new, but actually when they sold newspapers before everything was digitalised, they sold newspapers through having a great headline, and a headline ultimately acts as a hook. It hooks you in. So you can have the best social post in the world, but if the opening sentence of your copy is a pile of nonsense, nobody will ever see it. So when I'm doing a post, if I spend 5 minutes on a post, typically 3 of those 5 minutes are spent thinking about the hook. You need to, and a lot of people say, oh, use clickbait, use anger bait, polarize your audience with the hook. I mean, get through to it, test to your heart's content, right? For me, it's about finding that sweet spot between, maybe striking a wee bit of emotion, but if not, if you're not feeling that fruity, it's how do I create a hook which creates a curious customer? How do I create a wee line that my ICP sees it and goes, I want to read more, or I want to watch more of the video, or I want to read more of the newsletter? So it is so important, especially in today's busy world. Unfortunately, our brains are all rewired now. You've probably got 0.3 seconds to grab somebody's attention on something, or they're scrolling on to the next thing and you've missed them. So spend time thinking about how you capture and hook that audience to read, watch, or absorb whatever post it is that you've created.
Yep, spot on. Just to put a bow on the avatar, we have had to skim through it, but I definitely recommend taking a good hour and going through it for your business. The last part of it is, how do you reach them? So we've already touched on this. Where do they spend their time? What social channels do they use? Papers, websites, do they go to events? Really good one nowadays if you're doing B2C, so consumers. And the reason I alluded to thinking around cities and towns and villages and streets is Facebook groups. You've probably been in a Facebook group, you've probably seen people promoting it. It works. So yeah, if you're doing consumer stuff, think about that. But once you get through this worksheet, I can categorically tell you that it'll be so much easier deciding what you're going to put content-wise on your website, your profiles, your social media pages, because you're already went through the exercise of thinking as your customer thinks. Does that make sense, everyone?
Next
Okay.
one. Okay. We'll jump back into our slide deck and we will move on to good old paid marketing. So Barry will start off with kicking us off with a bit of synopsis on SEO. We could boil the ocean with this and talk to you about it all day long. We'll try in the interest of time more than anything to keep it brief.
Yeah. Thankfully, I was hoping this happened, by the way, but we've actually covered a lot of the principles of SEO already by talking about the website, talking about your content, answering customer questions. That is all part of your SEO strategy. There's two parts of SEO, and I'm going to try not to get too technical, but one of them is called on page. Really simple. What does a customer see when you look at your website? And the other one is technical. So is it fast? Does it load properly? Have you got all the links working? All that sort of stuff, right? So from a business, a trades business who just wants to make sure they've got a presence online, I wouldn't dive straight into doing technical SEO and all that sort of stuff. That would involve website developers and things. The principles I would always recommend to anybody is just make sure that your website works. It's optimized for mobile. It answers your customer questions. You've got pictures of you on it. A lot of websites have no people on them, right? I don't mind showing you ours, and you can see where we've put pictures of us on as well, just to bring it to life. But ultimately, it doesn't have to be more complicated than that at the start. It's just about providing value to your audience by educating them, answering them questions, becoming credible, and you do that through images, text, videos, so forth, so on. Question there, do you guys do an SEO review? Very good question, Ashley. Unfortunately, we don't. As a business, we are strategically placed all on paid ads. So we know about SEO, we know how to do it. We just don't offer it as a service.
We can recommend someone offline.
We do, yeah. If you're needing help
there's a bit of SEO, just feel free. Our contact information will be on the page that we're sharing, so feel free to reach out, and we're happy to make a referral over to somebody that can help you.
Yeah. And what I would say, just to put a bow on SEO, because I know we are conscious of time, is the pros and cons of it. If you can get leads through without paying for ad spend, that's a massive pro, right? So it's a no-brainer. The con of it is it's very technical. It's a very high skill set to do it yourself, and it takes time, right? It can take 3, 6, 9 months for you really to reap the benefits of constant SEO, constant content, blogging, and so forth, so on. If you flip that onto paid ads, you can get a lot more instantaneous results. But again, it's just another level of investment. So I would say, unless you've got a really good marketing budget, is pick one over the other to begin with. Once you get some sales for your first avenue, then invest in the both of them. Okay, cool. Any questions on SEO apart from Ashley's in the chat before I hand to Brian?
Quick one, Barry. Get asked this quite a lot, where people talk about ads on Facebook and boosted posts.
Mm-hmm.
What's the difference? Is there a difference, and what's the best?
Oh yeah, there's definitely a difference. So when you boost a post on Facebook, you're limited in what you can actually do with it. So if you wanted to boost something, you only have 4 or 5 different options that you can choose around who you want to show it to, where you want to send the person to after they click on your ad, what tracking you can put on it, how they become an inquiry. You might just get a message in or a lead form or something like that. So the biggest difference between the two is you're highly restricted in what you can do with that boosted post. When you create an ad, you pretty much tenfold the amount of options and tools you've got to reach your audience. You can start to use websites, tracking, all different creatives, all different options, all different targeting. It's pretty much like taking the training wheels off and doing it properly. Now, I've seen a question come in there, Astrid, and I'll answer that, and then I'll pass to Brian so he can weigh in on the difference between the two, because I know you've done some content on it as well. Is it worth doing? If you want to get a bit more brand awareness onto your page and get a few more eyeballs known about you, it is worth doing. If you want to generate high quality inquiries and leads, it's definitely not worth doing. But it all comes down to your business circumstances. If you've got a tenner there that you know is burning a hole in your pocket and you want to throw something out there, go for it. If you want to invest a proper marketing budget, do it the right way on proper ads.
Boosted ads were created by Facebook to get money from people who don't know how to run ads. That's that, right? So it won't do your business any harm because it's still pushing the message out to more people. So there's a brand awareness play. But if you take £1,000 and stick it into a proper ads campaign and at the same £1,000 and do boosted posts with the same content, there will be no comparable in terms of which campaign produces the best results. But the trade-off is that managing a campaign is a bit more convoluted. You can learn that. We started knowing nothing about it 5 years ago and taught ourselves, and have been fortunate enough to learn through spending our clients' money and pivoting accordingly. But if you're asking me, should I be boosting posts or should I be either learning how to manage ads or paying somebody how to manage ads? If you're going to take it seriously and have it as part of a long-term strategy, which it should be if you ask me for any trades-based business, forget about boosting posts. You're not quite throwing money down the drain. It will not do you any harm, but it's certainly not going to compete with a properly ran and managed ad campaign. So when it comes to paid ads, you've got your initial consideration is one of two things really. Do I want to do search or do I want to do social? So search is typically Google, and this is all about intent, right? So think about the intent of somebody who's sat at their PC or laptop or got on their mobile, and they are Googling, for example, carpentry services in Uddingston, right? The intent is there. They're maybe not quite ready to buy, they're doing a bit of research, but the intent level of that customer is high. If you compare that to a social media ad, so the avatar that I love to make up is Mrs. Patricia Jones. Mrs. Patricia Jones is not going onto Facebook to see an ad for carpentry, right? She is going onto Facebook for some other nonsense, like, what did my grandkids have for dinner? I'm going to go on and check and stalk them and see how their holiday's going, or some other nonsense like that, right? The art of it is that an ad is then surfaced to her at an opportune moment because we've looked at the ICP, we've matched that up with the people that we're targeting, and she sees that ad and thinks, oh, I've been talking to Mr. Jones about getting some carpentry done in the house. Let me have a look at this. I'm curious. So they might look at it and they might go, right, actually, I'm semi-interested here. Do I want to stick my details in? So they stick their details in. So you get a lead through Google, which is through search. You get one through social. Chances are the one that comes in through Google, that intent level is just that wee bit higher. But the trade-off is typically that, I guess it's a couple of things. So if I use Facebook as an example, it's pretty immediate in nature. So if we start an advertising campaign today on Facebook and we've not got a lead in by tomorrow, we're probably pretty disappointed. Google's a bit more of a slow burner. That intent and quality level's a bit higher. It's also a bit more competitive, so typically you're paying a bit more to run a search-based campaign versus a social-based campaign. We in particular specialise in social-based paid advertising, and how that works, right? When you cut through all the noise, is essentially you pay for eyeballs, right? So it's like any other form of marketing. You think about leaflet drops. Leaflet drops was all about how many people can I push this message through a leaflet to. The more money that I put into that campaign, the more leaflets I get, the more eyeballs that see it, the more telephone calls that I'll get, the more inquiries, the more surveys, the more installs. That's essentially how social media advertising works. So we will plug in your location and say, right, we're willing to travel 50 kilometres for a job, for example. We draw that periphery, or we don't manually draw it, but we place a little pin and say we're willing to travel 50 kilometres for a job. These are the demographics of the individuals that we want the ad to be shown to. So Mrs. Patricia Jones lives in your target area. We're targeting people that are aged 50 plus. She's aged 55, so she will see your ad when she goes on to Facebook to see what her grandkids had for dinner. And the more budget you put in, the more impressions and eyeballs that you get on that ad. So like the leaflet drops, it's just the more impressions and eyeballs, the more clicks, the more landing pages that are visited or lead forms that are completed, the more leads that arrive, the more surveys are complete, the more installs are complete. I've made it sound really, really, really straightforward. If it was that straightforward and there wasn't a bit more nuance to it, we probably wouldn't be in a job, and all of you would probably be in a beach somewhere with somebody else running your business,
Boosting
right?
your posts and making all your money.
Boosting your posts. So there's a bit more nuance to it, but when you break through all of the bluster, that is essentially how paid ads work.
Yeah.
On social in particular, you pay for eyeballs, you don't pay for leads, you don't pay for clicks on social media, you pay for reach and impressions.
Yeah. Does that make sense, everyone? There is a question from Astrid, right?
Yep.
Good question, right? How much would I have to pay for a Facebook ad for it to be effective, right? So through the years, we've worked with any budget, every budget. When I started out, I couldn't even tell you. I didn't know anything about budgets, you know. I would just do ads for anyone that said it, right? Now, nowadays, we have a clear guidance with clients where we say, look, if you're going to do a meta ad campaign, for example, we would recommend that you put in £1,500 into your ad spend per month. Now, that's based on years of trial and error with different lower budgets. Now, that's not a one rule fits all, by the way. That is a well, I'm just reading Ashley spent 60k boosting selling products, so yeah, it can be done. But what my recommendation on budget, Astrid, is if you're going to do ads, think about it over a longer term. So think about it over an initial minimum 3 months, right? And think about your average order, your average profit per customer, and try and work out your budget through that. You know, how much are you willing to pay to acquire a customer? How many customers do you want a month? How much have you got in the bank that you can throw at it is always the most important question. But have a little think of those metrics: profit per customer, how many customers do you want a month, and start working out your budget from there. The easiest thing to say as a marketer is put as much money as you can humanly afford into it, right? But you probably have to start somewhere. I would say if you can, £1,500 a month's a good marker. If it's going to be less than that, then think about how many customers you want to attract and how much you can spend to do it.
And just to build on that, I'm really, really conscious of time. I know we're over time now, right? But I'll try and do this in 30 seconds. So lifetime value, I mentioned earlier in our call, when we acquire a customer, we know that they're worth no less than £7,000 to the agency. So that means that I can be quite confident and almost quite fruitier and going, right, actually I can invest a wee bit to acquire a customer because I know I'm getting, 7k back in revenue. Not all of that's profit, but it's about understanding those numbers so that you can with confidence go, right, I don't mind acquiring a customer for 500 quid because I know I'm going to get maybe 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 pounds out of them over the lifetime of a relationship. And then the second point that I would just, try and encourage you all to have a think about is it's not just about going, I'm going to run a paid ad campaign for a month and seeing how it goes. That's nonsense. You're wasting your time, right? Paid ads need to form part of a long-term strategic execution, right? And you don't waver. So you view it as just as important as paying your rent or your tools or your fuel. It's a budget that's there that whether you have a great month or a poor month, you don't go, actually, we need to protect that budget because it didn't quite work out last month. So I would always recommend to people that if you just don't have the budget to do that, if you're going into it thinking, I need to make this work from month one, otherwise I can't do it in month two, don't do it. Get some cash in the kitty, save, be frugal, get yourself to a point where you think, right, I can go at this for 6 months and see how it goes. And then what happens is you have some shit months, you have some great months. The great months, you stick a wee bit in the marketing kitty so that after that 6 months, you've been tucking money away and you're ready to go for the next 6 months. Everything compounds. right? And that only happens if you're continually at it. So this knee jerking around, oh, I tried it for 3 weeks, it didn't work, I stopped it, I'm on to the next thing. You're just throwing money down the drain. So for us, paid ads are viewed as paying rent, lecky, salaries, insurance, marketing budget is protected. It is essentially, you know, what helps us grow as a business. And to wrap all of this up, and I'm sorry we have run out of time, we've tried to cover a lot in today's session, maybe in reflection a bit too ambitious on our part. This will take 20 seconds. If you're sat there thinking this paid ad stuff sounds great, but I really don't have a clue, or I don't have the time, and I can't really risk wasting money on it because I'm just not a subject matter expert. If you want to outsource it to an organisation like ours, our contact information will be at the end of the slide deck, which we'll share with you. We've compiled a wee Power Within special offer, which will be live for the next 2 weeks only. So take advantage of that while you can. We are offering to run and manage your paid ads for you for $9.97 a month plus VAT for the first 3 months. After 3 months, we'll sit down and have, you know, a conversation about potentially moving you to our standard pricing if all things have went well and you're happy with your investment. And what you'll get for that is an experienced marketing outfit that will set up, manage, and maintain a set of paid ads on your behalf so that you can forget about it to the point where Mrs. Patricia Jones picks up the phone to you and says, I need carpentry services. Can you come out to my property? And that's it. That's the big pitch. So I'll put a bow on it, I guess, by saying thank you so much for having us along today. Hopefully you found that session valuable. If there's any follow-up questions, by all means, you know, feed them into Stuart. We're happy to pick them up offline and respond via email to make sure that you've got, you know, all of the value that you anticipated out of this session. But just thanks so much for your time. Good luck with everybody. Hopefully you're all in that busy period now, as most of the trades businesses are in the lead up to Christmas. So fill your boots.
Yeah.
You know, it's no long before January's here again, and we're all scrambling to get beans and toast out of the cupboard to survive to February. So
Yeah.
Enjoy the feast period of your trade. And I just pick up the phone or drop us a message through our website or through LinkedIn if you want to have a conversation about anything relating to digital marketing.
Yeah, and just echo Brian's comments. Thanks, everyone. It's 7:10. I'm sure you've been working all day. We'll let you go now. We really appreciate your
Just
engagement.
one quick question, guys. I noticed Ashley's asked there on the offer, is that paid ads on Google?
All right, okay.
It's not. We only manage social paid ads now. We used to do everything: Google, TikTok, YouTube. As Barry said, you pay us, we'll come and wash your car. But you know, in time, we've identified the channel of choice that works best for trades organisations within our portfolio. And our team are just, again, excuse my Glaswegian, but we're shit hot at managing social ads. So we try and stick very firmly to our lane now, and our lane is paid ads management across social, primarily Meta.
Okay, excellent. Thanks, guys. That's been really good, really, really helpful.
No worries.
And anybody on the call or listening to the recording, your contact details are there. Just reach out to Barry and Brian, ask the question.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks, everyone. Don't be shy. Give us a shout anytime.
Thank you. Thank you very much. That was great.
Thanks.
Cheers,
Thanks, Barry.
guys.
Thanks, Brian, for joining, and
Bye.
thanks
No
everybody
worries
for
at
coming
all.
along. Really appreciate it.
No worries. All the best.
Thank
Cheers,
you.
everyone.
See ya.